Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Sadhguru at, I believe it's TNAU, TNAU, Combator, Youth and Truth. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but again, just grabbing some of these to get back into the groove of it. Just kind of curious as to the different thoughts of people today, young people especially. I really wish we had something like we kind of do now. Actually, I've started to see a few other YouTube videos of people doing, I wouldn't say necessarily something like this, but it's very much just strictly very political stuff. But I wish that Guru would do one over here. I would love to see how people would react to him, and I have a feeling I don't know, I'm curious. There's going to be a whole bunch of stupid people, though, I'm sure, that would react stupidly because they have one train of thought and one train of thought only. Anyways, let's go get started.
Namaskaram Sadhguruji. Namaskaram. Tamil Nadu Agricultural University Samba Sadhguruji welcome பண்ணிக்கிறேன். நீங்க வந்ததுக்கு a very big thanks. Sanskrit team க்கு சரி, Sound of Isha team க்கு சரி, எங்களை encourage பண்ணதுக்கு, entertain பண்ணதுக்கு a very big thanks. And university ல இருந்து நிறைய questions வந்துச்சு. We are very curious to ask questions and உங்ககிட்ட இருந்து eager இருக்கும். We are waiting for your answers too. And I am Vijay, doing 4th B.Tech Food Process Engineering.
I am Kartika. I am Kartika K, doing my second year in BSc Honours Agriculture.
I am Sricharan, doing my second year BSc Honours Agriculture.
He kind of looks bored or something, the white shirt guy.
And my first question to you is, இங்க சத்குரு வராருன்னு சொன்னப்ப எல்லாருமே most of the people இங்க இருக்கவங்க வந்துட்டு சொன்னது வந்துட்டு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் மேனேஜ்மென்ட்டை கேளு, ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் மேனேஜ்மென்ட் பத்தி கேளு அப்படின்னு சொன்னதுதான். ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் நம்ம ஃபியூச்சர் யோசிக்கும் போதும் சரி, ஒரு ரிலேஷன்ஷிப்ல இருக்கும்போதும் சரி, நம்ம வந்துட்டு ஒரு சப்ஜெக்ட்ல வந்துட்டு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் கம்மியா இருக்கும்போது நமக்கு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் வருது. அதே சமயம் வந்துட்டு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் இருந்தா தான் ஒரு வர்க்கை வந்து நம்மளால கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ண முடியுது. How to manage stress?
Let me see if I can answer that real quick. Just kind of curious how close my answer is to Sadhguru, or if it'll be different. How do you manage stress, essentially? I don't know. My technique, make it sound like a ninja move, but my technique is really not letting it. It doesn't help what I'm about to say, but it just doesn't bother me. I do get stressed out a little bit sometimes when there's a lot of work to be done, but for the most part, not really. Because the only thing I can think about being stressed out is at work when there's a lot of priority calls that come in. But at the same time, I remember talking to my boss about this. Like, he said, "Yeah, I understand you're the only one working here, and I trust you to prioritize the job appropriately." And it's like with that, it's like, well, that leaves it relieves a lot of stress. If you have stress in your relationship or with your relationship, I guess it's a pretty broad statement, whether it be your significant other or friends or whatever. As long as you give them a very good reason and they are good friends, they would be like, they should be understanding. It's like, hey, it's like, hey man, we made plans today, what happened? It's like, hey, and you explain to them, like, I'm sorry man, something came up and I couldn't text you right back or something. I'm really sorry, let me make this up for you. And if you make it up to them, they can see you being very genuine, like maybe paying for, like if you decided to go hang out to eat or just grab something to eat and talk, maybe you pay for it, or if you're poor like me, then you just say, we just reschedule it. But as long as it's not something that you do too frequently, it's a consistent thing, then it shouldn't necessarily be a problem. And a very good thing would be if you were to say, hey, I can't make it today, sorry, something came up, I promise to make it up, or we can reschedule some other time. I think that could be very much understanding. Your job, on the other hand, that's something that you kind of have to prioritize because they are paying you for your time. They're paying you to do your job, so you do have to prioritize that. But at the same time, obviously you ultimately prioritize things in your life. Whether it's more important for you to go visit family than to prioritize your job, then you run the risk of losing your job. But at the very least, that should be something that you should expect. What else? Whatever you prioritize, it should be something that and anything else that you prioritize under that, you should expect to lose it. It's really kind of grim to say that, but if you have that perspective, it becomes less stressful. But at the same time, do understand that that doesn't mean that you care less about it. Perhaps it does, but it's just more along the lines, maybe you have more time to do the other thing later and do this thing first as well. There's so many ways to look at it. You have to really think about it, why you're prioritizing something first, and what you can do to alleviate those who are in less priority, to ease their, I don't know, ease their, I wouldn't say suffering, because, like, you know, if you say you're going to go out to eat with a friend and you're going to be late, you can say something to them, it's like, hey, look, I'm going to be late, I have to do something that was important. You know, they can understand that. At least they're not just sitting there, like, wondering what's going on. Hope that made sense. That's my best answer.
Oh. தமிழ்ல ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ன்றதுக்கு வார்த்தை என்ன இருக்குது? என்ன? மன அழுத்தம்.
What's that?
மன அழுத்தம் மேனேஜ் பண்ணணுமா? இல்லை சந்தோஷம், அமைதி, ஆனந்தம் மேனேஜ் பண்ணணுமா? எது பண்ணணும்? நமக்கு மதிப்பாக இருக்கிறது நம்ம மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கணுமா, நமக்கு தேவையில்லாதது நம்ம மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கணுமான்னு நான் கேட்குறேன். நமக்கு தேவையில்லாத விஷயம் நம்ம மேனேஜ் பண்ணணுமா, இல்லை நமக்கு மதிப்பாக இருக்கிற விஷயங்கள் நம்ம மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கணுமா? சொல்லுங்கள். மதிப்பாக இருக்கிறது தானே மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கணும். திருப்பி மன அழுத்தம் என்னத்துக்கு மேனேஜ் பண்ண போகிறீங்கன்னு கேட்குறேன். நான் இப்படியே சில வருடங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி முதலாவது தடவை அமெரிக்கா போனப்போ அங்கே எங்கே போனாலும் ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டுன்னு எல்லாம் பேசிக்கிறாங்க. நான் அப்படியே பார்க்குறேன், இது என்ன ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் எதுக்கு மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க?
Well, Google Translate is doing a terrible job, I will say. Oh, English to English. What the? Auto translate. English. What is it? English to English. Just auto translate.
ஏதோ நம்ம ஊரில் நம்ம குடும்பம் மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம், நம்ம சொத்து மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம், பணம் மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம், தொழில் மேனேஜ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம். இவர் ஏதோ.
Let me try to figure this out. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to skip that part because there's no way for it to translate. It thinks everything is in English, so it's trying to translate English to English, which then it does nothing. It puts to Hindi, and it's actually translating from English to Hindi. So, yeah, I don't know what to do for that part. If you want to watch that part, I suggest, please, before even watching any of this video, is to watch that video first and foremost, so you see it uninterrupted. But let's go ahead into the second part. I did skip ahead to the second part, just making sure that at least not all of it is in, not all of it is in whatever language. Oh, Tamil. Whatever language it's in, which is Tamil. I did try to find that, but yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and get the next part in.
So, Sadhguru, since we are studying in agriculture university, my next question is related to agriculture. Agriculture was an industry which supported the GDP more than 30% in the medieval times, but now it has come down to 16 to 17%. But when you see the scenario, it is the only industry which employs more than 2/3 of the population.
Wow. Isn't
this contradiction creating a constraint in the economic development of the country?
Say,
I'm sorry. I always like to try to answer these to just see how either far off or distant my answer is. So it used to be 2/3, I believe she said. Now it's only like 16%. Or is it a third? Anyways. Hindering the prospect of the... is it a contradiction creating a constraint in the economic development of the country? No, not necessarily. Because I think America our biggest export used to be tobacco. I don't know if it still is or isn't. That's a long time ago when I did a research. Economic development, whatever your biggest exports are, is going to help your economic development. And if India is a very fertile ground, which I do believe it is, there's a lot of spices that come from there. That's a great economic development. People want spices. People don't want bland foods. And food is something that you have every day. This is something I thought about if I were to join an economic class. It's like, because one of my how to say, my co-students. Well, anyways, that took a class, said they had to develop a product and make it profitable. I was thinking, it's like, well, if I were to make a product, it would be something that they have to use every day and buy almost every day. And what is that? Not games, because you want you to buy that once, that's it. Not electronics, because that lasts a long time. Food. That's something that you have to buy every day, that you use every day. So if you make food, it is something that it's and you don't want to make. I was going to say I did baby food originally because everyone has babies, but babies are only babies for so long, and then they can become not babies. Anyways, you have to look at. I am thinking like a true capitalist here, and you have to think of what food group, what food would be best that they consume it for a very long time. Adults, so teenagers to adults, essentially not baby or children. And adults go from 18 to 100 and something. So you have many years to make many monies out of a food. So spices, food, agriculture is a big thing in the world. It's not going to be a constraint in the economic development, not at all. If you can have food and freaking computers, but no matter what, the most needed thing in the world is food. Computers are not going to feed you. You can't eat chips. Well, not the computer chips anyway.
In the economic development of the country?
See, it's very progressive to call agriculture an industry. But human ability to do agriculture is the basis of our civilization. If we were hunters and gatherers, we would have never made this civilization grow.
Yeah, we can't develop
it. It is only because of our ability to pull food out of mud. Because of that, we built cities and towns and settled down, and many other arts and sciences, and everything grew. If we were running after an animal, wanting to spear it, we would have never developed a civilization as such. So agriculture is the basis of our civilization. We should not forget this.
And also, the beauty is that, again, once food is needed, and if there are certain areas that cannot grow food but can develop, I wouldn't say develop, but create other things, you can trade for it. But food is absolutely mandatory. Other things are not necessarily mandatory, so food is extremely valuable. Spice too, because salt used to be very valuable, now it's readily everywhere.
And it's
still
kind of a magic. When I say magic, if you don't understand what I'm saying, the soil that you walk upon is being turned into food, isn't it? Huh? It's not a small magic. If I don't understand what magic I'm talking about, tonight in your dinner, you eat the rest of the food. Instead of pickle, just have little bit of soil on the side and touch it with it and eat. You will see how terrible it is if we have to eat the soil. And that soil which we cannot eat, we make it into wonderful food, which nourishes us and makes this flesh and blood. This is not a small thing. Transforming mud into food is agriculture. This phenomenal process that human beings discovered by observing plant life and harnessed it, and as far as I know, tell me, being in the college, if I'm wrong, this is the only country, except probably some patches of South America, where there is over a 12,000-year history of agriculture.
You have to look, like, don't get me wrong, I think, 12,000 years of agriculture. You can have agriculture in a lot of other places, but the food is restricted. So, again, like certain, maybe bananas or coconuts can only grow in certain regions. And then, what is it? Like, amazingly, if I remember correctly, I think California produces 80% of the world's almonds, I believe, which is kind of crazy. and it requires a lot of water. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of political stuff that I think about whenever I said that, because I've heard my friends say that there's a dispute with water in California with another state. It's really crazy. But yes, agriculture is very, very important and very, very valuable.
This is a land here, southern India in Tamil Nadu. We have plowed the same land for over 12,000 years. It's not a small thing. We have a deep relationship. In America, they call soil as dirt. Here we say Thai mannu, because we have a profound relationship with this soil.
No, because it's actually dirt. Not much can really grow in certain parts of America. So in non-farming areas is literally dirt. Now don't get me wrong, you can grow certain things, but obviously there has to be certain rights conditions for things to grow. That's the reason why it's mostly dirt. It's also like a lot of hard topsoil and stuff is very hard and very difficult for certain things to grow. You really have to work the land a lot. So it's called dirt for a reason, because it's very difficult in some areas. But yes, if you really put a lot of work into it, you can make the dirt work. You can make it into really good soil.
So, about 2/3 of the population being in agriculture, I must tell you, this happened around 200 years ago or 170, 180 years ago. India was a very industrialized country. 300 years ago, probably we were the most industrialized country on the planet. One of the major industries was textile. We were exporting 60% of the world's textile. We were exporting from this country. Between 1800 to 1860, the British saw that they say over 65 to 70% of the European money was coming to India just to buy clothing. The Arabs bought the Indian cloth and sold it 10 times over in Europe. So all their gold and silver was ending up in India. So that is when they started their expeditions of all these Columbuses and Vasco da Gamas. Everybody started taking a risk to find a sea route just to avoid the Arabs charging them 10 times over for everything. So when they came here and they saw the industry, how simple and ingenious it was for a man to sit and do tuck, 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 and cloth just comes out of it. Have you seen how they weave? When they saw this, they saw that this is such a simple industry and they can do it with machines, and which they started establishing. And in 60 years' time, the export of textiles in this country came down by 94%. Only 6% was left because they put such taxes, and in some places, very fine cloth, they cut off their thumbs, they destroyed the looms. One of the British Governor-Generals goes out to say that in 1860, he says this, that the fields of India are bleached by the bones of the hand weavers. Millions of people died. It's estimated somewhere between 3 to 4 million people died of starvation because their industry was destroyed. That is when a large population moved back to agriculture. And agriculture became subsistence. To just make some food for yourself and your family, they started plowing the land. That is how over nearly 87% of India's population was in agriculture in 1947, I think, somewhere around that percentage. Today, it has come down to 65. What this essentially means is, if 10 people have to eat, 6.5 to 7 people are cooking. Not an efficient way to use human resource. In fact, if you look at our nation, the only true resource we have is human resource. We don't have anything too much, we have people.
I was going to say, I thought it'd be efficient because now you need less people to cook for more people. And maybe perhaps the reason why not so many people are in agriculture today is because they have machines now that can, one machine can do the work of 10 people. or one machine can do the work of 100 people. So there's less and less people needed to work the farmlands. Kind of like in America, I remember seeing all these advanced technology and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy. I never really looked into it, but there's games called like Farming Simulator. I'm very much a gamer, and I haven't really played very much of it, but I just saw like all the different kinds of equipment you can get. I'm like, Jesus, this is kind of crazy. Is this all like real life stuff? And that makes sense. One person now with so much advanced equipment can farm many acres, or I don't know how to translate the how big the land is that you can farm with just one person with the machines. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. And maybe with as technology advances everywhere in the world as well, we require less and less people to produce more and more food. But then it's also a kind of a profit, how to say, a profit kind of deal where you don't have to pay as many people. That way you save money on labor, but you have machines that do it. And also you don't have to put up with people's attitudes and stuff if that's the case too sometimes. Or being late.
If we can train, focus, inspire this population, we can be a tremendous miracle. If you fail to do that, we will be a big disaster. So, 65% being in agriculture is not a right thing to do. We have to move the population. But moving the population does not mean moving them geographically into cities, but moving them to other trades and crafts and skills has to happen. No determined effort and organized effort has happened. So, our main problem with agriculture has been, we started moving from subsistence farming to cash farming or commercial farming approximately 35–40 years ago. The journey started. Still it is happening, not fully done, because it was not done in an organized way. Because of this, one thing that you will see is rural populations are heavily undernourished. If you went into your village 35–40 years ago, everybody wore torn clothes, there was no drinking water, they drank from the same pond where the buffaloes drank, all kinds of problems. But men and women were strong. Today, if you go into your village, 60% of the rural population, their skeletal system has not grown to full size. They are shrunk simply because moving from subsistence farming to cash farming. When they were doing subsistence farming, they had no cash, but they were eating variety of food. Today, the staple diet in southern India has become rice, tamarind, onion and chili. They know how to concoct something tasty. Rasam sadam itself is enough.
So is he saying essentially that while they still probably plant the same crops and stuff, it's just that they sell the more expensive crops and keep perhaps some of the not so expensive ones for themselves so that they can eat, so they're not eating a well-balanced diet, and perhaps maybe selling more than they should in order to eat a healthy diet because they need to get the money, maybe?
No nourishment, just staple diet going like this. In the north it's just wheat, chili and onion. In the south we have tamarind extra. So, because of this, the nourishment levels have dropped dramatically, and this is a serious concern because we are producing a generation of underdeveloped humanity. A whole lot of people have not eaten well in the early stages of their life, and they cannot make it up later. The development of the body and brain is gone. So, this has happened to a huge number of people in this country. So, one of the most important things is to organize agriculture, to bring technology. Above all, the economy of scale is needed. Right now, average land holding is a hectare, which is 2.25 acres, which you cannot do anything worthwhile. You cannot really do anything significant with such small land holdings. So we are trying to do many things to bring farmers, producers, organizations and other things to bring some kind of a scale for both for cultivation, irrigation and marketing purpose. You need scale. Because the farmers are so small, The farm volumes are so small, there is no solution for this. So right now there is a serious effort. This was part of the Rally for Rivers movement, that we want to multiply the farmers' income. In about 5 to 6 years' time, very easily you can multiply the farmer's income anywhere between 3 to 8 times. If you adopt certain technologies, an integration of irrigation is most important for this, using water resources properly and bringing animals back on the farm. A tractor only plows the land, it doesn't fertilize the land, okay? You need animals. Without animals, there is no way you can do farming in future. So these efforts are being made, but it's a large, diverse country. Nothing positive or negative can ever happen without protest and turmoil and struggle and everything. For every small thing, there is a struggle. But if we don't do this now, India's agriculture can be in danger, because if you make a survey of the farmers, how many of them want their children to go into farming?
Oh, yeah.
Believe me, it's somewhere around 2 to 5%, not more.
Because these farmers know how much of a struggle it is, and generally speaking, obviously parents want their children to have a better life.
That's not good for the country.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pause right there because I'm running out on that time. Amazingly, I must have said a lot, but I'm wondering. He's saying about 2.25 acres a hectare for a hectare. So maybe I get the struggle. Even if you have farming equipment that can make you farm a lot of acres, it's just that you don't have enough to justify getting farming equipment. So you need other alternatives to farm, manual labor. And if you can't produce a lot, you cannot grow. It's kind of like if you own a business, but your business, the building that you rented out is not big enough for you to provide better service because you need more room, and you cannot use the more up-to-date technologies to provide better service and to provide more service, let me say that, then you can't really expand your business because you're limited on your space. And I'm wondering if that's what he's trying to say there. Since most of them operate on a hectare of land. I don't know how much land farmers over here have. I couldn't even guess. If I was to guess, it's probably, let's just say in hectares, 200 hectares. So about 450 acres, I suppose. I don't know. This is a wild guess for me. And obviously, you know, you'll need multiple people to do that because that's a lot of acres, and even the farming machines are slow for a purpose because you can't do things necessarily too quickly, but significantly faster than humans, of course. But yes, agriculture is very, very important. And yeah, he's talking about South America, where, you know, a lot of bananas that we get are from South America. I kind of did some research on these things, not for this video, just kind of curiosity. Is obviously there's certain plants that can only grow in certain areas, which makes them significantly more valuable because they cannot be planted anywhere else. So if you have a plant or a spice like that, that becomes, you kind of have a monopoly on it. What else? But I get what he's trying to say. I don't know about the farming situation, but he's right. You know, obviously, depending on how farming is, so, like, it's really weird. In America, there are people out there who play Farming Simulator. I want to. It looks fun, but doing the real thing might actually be not too bad. I'm assuming it's a great time for you to, if you have the machines, of course, not hand picking or anything like that. That's very tiring work. But anyways, if you have the machines, just to listen to an audio book while you're just driving the tractor or whatever it is to pick up your corn or wheat or whatever it may be, and then they use the same machines to plant it maybe, and then use a different machine to water the plants, or just have sprinkler systems set up so that it'll water it for you. You know, machines makes our lives a lot easier, and this is kind of like washing machine, dishwashers, refrigerators, AC units, cars. You no longer necessarily need to hand wash your clothes. You just throw it in the machine, and people are too lazy to do that. There's dishwashers out there, and people are like, oh my gosh, I have to do the dishes. They don't have to hand wash the dishes. You just throw it in a dishwasher, and when it's done, put it up. You don't have to walk anywhere. You can just drive if you need to, or Uber or whatever, taxi, or bike. Even biking, you don't have to walk. You can bike, motorcycle, mopeds. You don't have to buy food every day because you have a refrigerator that can keep it cold so that it lasts longer. It's really kind of crazy. Anyways, sorry this is only one question. For some odd reason it's ran quite long. I'm hoping I can upgrade my media computer so it doesn't keep crashing when it does video editing. That's the reason why the videos have been kind of short. But also gives me a bit of time to kind of, hopefully people who watch this video process the information. Because these hour-long videos are very much, there's a lot of things to be said and thought about and really need to think about. Anyways, that's my reaction to Sadhguru TNAU, if that's the right way to say it. I don't know if they say it that way. I think that's pretty cool. Anyways, but TNAU. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.